So this Sunday is the fifth Sunday in the season of creation. So let's do a quick recap. I also kind of want to make this a question answer, audience participation, but I'll kind of let you off the hook this time. The first Sunday of creation, we talked about integrity. The second Sunday of creation, we talked about hope. The third Sunday of creation, we talked about wisdom. And the fourth Sunday of creation, we talked about service. All these are to be passed on along with all of God's beautiful creation to the next generation. This Sunday, the fifth and final Sunday of creation, our focus is on discipleship. So, as I looked at the passages for this Sunday, I went, that isn't a real obvious connection here. However, after further review, I think I can help you make the connection. But the natural thing when we're going to focus on discipleship is to ask, what is a disciple? And so, as we think about that, obviously I gave you a partial answer when I was talking to the children. To begin with, we need to understand that a disciple means we are students. We are learning. We are part of a learning environment. And so that makes me say, what from the three passages we read is something we can learn? And so I think if we look, first of all, at the passage from Esther and the story of Queen Esther, we may pick up a very important aspect of what it means to be a disciple. Now, just to refresh your memory, Esther was a Jew who had come into favor with the king. And back in that day, we know that a king and many men had many wives, right? But Esther had elevated herself to be the king's favorite wife, to be his queen. And Esther had an uncle named Mordecai. And Mordecai had a lot of influence, along with Esther, on the king, which disturbed this man named Haman. And Haman set out to get rid of Mordecai and all the Jews. Had this great plan. Mordecai learns of it, comes to Esther and says, you have influence. It's time you use the influence on behalf of your people. And from that we get a phrase that pops up in the church fairly regularly, such a time as this. You see, it was Esther's time. It was Esther's time to stand up and to be counted and to use the influence that she had gained with the king. Well, then we pick up where we were reading from this morning. She had put together this plan to have multiple meals, and on this specific meal for the king and Mordecai, she decided it was time to drop the bomb. She does. You hear the results. The king calls for not Mordecai to hang on the gallows, but instead Haman. And the Jews are saved. So from this story of Esther, we can take the very important message that goes with what does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus. One, that we have a responsibility at times to stand up and to use our influence in a positive way. That's what Esther did. We don't know when that time is going to be, but just like Esther, we will come to the point where it is such a time as this, as Mordecai says to Esther. A disciple of Jesus is someone that is ready, and even maybe reluctantly, because Esther was very reluctant in the beginning, but ready and eventually willing to stand up and use our influence to make a positive impact on our world. Then we go to the gospel. I told the people at first service that from now on, when Pastor and I decide who's preaching which Sundays, I'm reading ahead. Because when I looked at this, I went, ugh. Right? But I still think there's a very important message for us as disciples here. So we have a disciple come and report to Jesus. Jesus, we saw somebody doing something and using your name to do it, and we stopped them. They're not one of us. And Jesus says, wait a minute. They were doing good? Well, yeah, they were doing good. And they were giving me the credit? Yeah, they were. They were using your name. And the problem here is what? Jesus says, don't do that. Is it because of your pride and arrogance you stopped them? Did they not have the right label on their jeans, or what's up with this? Stop it. They're doing good. And anyone that's doing good in my name has to be doing something positive. And then he goes on. And he says, if you become a stumbling block for one of these little ones, so hang on to that, the little ones, right? If you become a stumbling block for them, it would be better to have a millstone put around your neck and you thrown into the sea. Because you just kind of goofed up. Now, when we hear that phrase, the little ones, it tends to take us to all those wonderful young ones that were sitting with me here just a little while ago. Let me caution you, that is not solely Jesus' intention here. Those wonderful younger ones can be included. But basically, Jesus is talking about anyone who is new in their following of Jesus and or their relationship with God. The little ones are the ones that are just starting out. And references back to this person that the disciples stopped. Yeah, maybe this person hasn't jumped through all the hoops and signed all the papers and all this kind of thing. They're very new, but they're doing good in my name. Don't become a stumbling block for them. And so, to me, this says a very important lesson for us if we're going to be a disciple of Jesus. And that is, we can't be stumbling blocks. Now, I am very proud of St. Stephen's Lutheran Church. And part of the reason that I'm a member of St. Stephen's Lutheran Church, because if you look at our welcome statement, we have clearly stated we are not going to be a stumbling block to anyone for any reason, and we are not going to put up barriers for any reason. All will be welcome. all are invited to be part of the ministry. No matter if you're new in your relationship with God or you have been practicing a relationship with God for your entire life. Notice I said practicing because we all have room to grow. You're all welcome. We want you a part of it. All are included. And our welcome statement says, and it's not based on any labels. We don't care what's on your jeans. We'd prefer you wore jeans, or something. But we don't care what labels you carry. Those are labels that the world has given, not the labels that Christ has given. And Jesus is trying to make a point to say, it is far worse if you think you are so good because you have a label that you're going to stop others and you're going to create stumbling blocks and you're going to create hoops and you're going to create barriers. It is far better for you to cut off whatever it leads you to think that's the right thing to do than to go through this life thinking you have a right to create any kind of barrier or create any kind of hurdles for people to come to God and to be part of God's ministry. And so, we're given the challenge. Do we want to be a student of Jesus Christ? Do we want to be a disciple? Today we're given lessons on what it means. We need to be like Esther, ready for that time to come when it's our time to stand up and use our influence for the good of others. And don't we know that in the world today, it is a time like this that we have been called to stand up and be disciples. Our other lesson is we are called as disciples to make sure that any barrier, any stumbling block to the relationship and the ministry of Jesus Christ is taken away, so that all may come and sit at the feet of Jesus and learn and then go out and teach the same. And so, the question that I want to leave in your mind today is this: do you dare to be a disciple? That is what we have to pass on to future generations. To God be all glory, honor, and praise, now and forever. Amen.